All right, all right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for your patience as we continue to try to get this down pat as far as technology goes. So, I'm excited to be with you for yet another episode of Your Money Matters, a financial empowerment show, as CMP Radio and myself, and probably many others, attempt to move the culture forward as it pertains to money and finance. If you've been tuning in, our first week we talked about getting ourselves into a money mindset. We started in January of 2023, and we want to make sure that we're in a money mindset so that as we move forward every week with the shows, we have a money mindset. The second week we talked about taxes. The third week we talked about building a strong financial house. What does that look like? And the foundation of building a strong financial house is life insurance. So we spent a great deal of time talking about life insurance, the right kinds, the wrong kinds. And last week, we had someone speak to us about the next layer of building a financial house, which is investing, right? Whether it's short term, long term. We had a very special guest to get us into investments 101, so to speak. What do we need to know if we're just trying to get into this game? And the information that we're providing is free, but we have several experts on here who would love to help you to get these things rolling. So we give them an opportunity to plug their business so that they too can help the community and empower folks to move the culture forward. So that was so jam packed, full of information last week. We had to do a part two. We went well over an hour, and we were really just scratching the surface. So this week we have the same guest, Miss Rashida Baker, back. Um, to recap, Rashida used to be a registered nurse by education, and she got into the financial services industry and learned that she didn't have to exchange time for dollar, and became a regional vice president in the company that she works for. And she's just looking to help people to know what to do with the money, where to park the money. And we're going to bring her on so that she can get into part two of investments. Are you there, Rashida?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening. Good evening. Good
Good
evening.
evening. Good evening. Can't thank you enough for getting on yet again to share some information with our audience. It's definitely the time, as they say, to level up as we continue to fall into the whole woke generation, the woke culture, where
Mhm.
people are starting to catch on and do some different things with their money. So I can't thank you enough for getting on to be a part of that journey with us.
Mhm.
So, few things that I know you're going to cover tonight, but these are questions that people asked me. Somebody said they had $2,000 and they wanted to know what would be where would be the best place to park their money. I'm in a group, and the young lady asked, I got 2 grand. Because people want to invest their tax money, they want their money to make money for them. So as people are getting their income tax return, they're wanting to know, where should I park my money to get the best money that my money can buy. So she wanted to know where to park the money. Some other questions I got was talking about diversification. Other people, especially with our life insurance segment, they wanted to know why they should invest in the global economy versus sinking a lot of their money into a life insurance policy. And then, since it is Black History Month, I want to talk about the impact of the African American dollar in the communities that we live in, and how we can make some changes to position ourselves to live outside of today. So I'll let you take it away, and I'll ask questions as they come.
All right, all right, all right. Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you great.
Awesome, awesome. So let me just repeat these questions as we get into a talk. Most of them will be embedded in the things that we talk about tonight, but $2,000, where's the best place to park my money to get the best of my money? You're going to hear about us talking about having a financial plan. The best place to put your money depends on where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
If you need $2,000 in the next 6 months, 8 months, a year because you're getting married, then that's going to be a very different answer. If you say this is $2,000, this is some side money. I just want to do something with it and see something special happen. I don't have any particular time frame. That's going to be another answer.
Mm-hmm.
If you say to me, I'm looking to retire. Can I get retired in the next 15, 20 years? Now I need at least 5, 6, 8, 10, 12 grand a month coming in. That's going to be a different answer. Your money should go into the vehicles based on your time horizon and what you need this money to do. So I gave this number several times, 856-389-5067, because that's a very personal answer. There's a lot of investment vehicles in the world. What do you need the money to do, and when do you need it to do it? Those are two very key answers to give you a specific response. So we do that one-on-one. It's no cookies cutter, one size fits all. We have different strategies, and our process is very similar for everybody. But we have different strategies to get you where you want to be, because some people want to end up here and some people want to end up there. So, but I'm going to get into some of the different strategies as we go on. Do you have a question? No.
No.
Okay. All right. And diversification, we'll talk about that. That's the old adage, not all your eggs in one basket. We're going to touch on that lightly.
Mm-hmm.
And in this global economy, why should we invest in the global economy versus life insurance? We have two very specific slides to that. Number one, even according to the IRS tax code, life insurance are not investments. And any life insurance company that promotes it as such, the IRS, the federal government, will sanction them, will silence them, will fine them. And so I know it's marketed as such, but even the IRS says that because the vast majority of that premium goes to life insurance, not an investment. And when it's tied to the life insurance, and the investment and the life insurance are commingled, one always affects the other. In particular, if you die and actually use the life insurance, it affects whatever money was there, because you typically won't get that money, or your family. You'll get the life insurance, but you don't get the investment. And if you touch the investment, you absolutely 100% affect the life insurance benefit. So
Right.
there's a philosophy where you separate the two. Get your life insurance with a life insurance company and get your investments through an investment company. And the two shall never commingle. And upon your death, your family gets both. We'll touch on that as well, too.
Sure.
And I think the last question is, being that it's Black History Month, what impact does the Black dollar have? Well,
Especially as it pertains to, what we could be doing instead.
Well, I will say this. What I've learned is that the African American community has enough assets and resources that rivals. I think it would make the seventh largest country in assets, gross, the seventh. So that says to me we have a lot of money in our community. It's just misdirected. And whether it's Black History Month, February or January or December or July or August, that money could be growing, and we could have assets and resources to really affect our community. We would have assets and resources that we can align with politicians that will do your bidding. We could have legal representation at every level, not just when someone's in trouble, but to structure how we could really build net worth and assets in the African American community that go beyond what we wear, what we drive, the zip code we live in, or the labels on the back of our clothing, right? Because it indeed makes and continues to make those people wealthy generationally. And those same dollars, and I'm not saying don't be flossy and don't get your drip on and all of those things. I'm not saying don't do that, but I'm saying, she laughing at me, but I'm saying is, why not build wealth and you can change your outfit every other minute if you want to? Why not build wealth and you can own the car dealership? You can switch your cars out every other week if you'd like to. You know, that was the advice given to Charles Barkley from Dr. J. You know, you're buying all these cars, you can only drive one. Why don't you invest and buy a car dealership and you could change it out? See, when you have assets, whatever you do now, you could do it times 1,000 without diminishing your future wealth or the wealth of your children's children's children. And you can still look fantabulous, and you can still drive with the car you want to drive and travel and buy and shop and give and still grow nest eggs and net worth and assets. One does not have to be in lieu of the other, but it does take a little bit more coaching and mindset shifting.
And discipline. The discipline is it's definitely lacking. So yeah, you're absolutely right in that sense that if we learned how to redirect the money and make our money, like you talked about, the retirement situation with your mother, where she didn't retire with as much as she wanted to, but you taught her how to make that money continue to come in so that she wouldn't outlive it. And I think sometimes we get so caught up in right now, whether it's a paycheck to paycheck thing, or I got a couple dollars and I wanna get my drip on. That made me laugh because it's the truth. You want to get your drip on, but just talking about going the distance and creating wealth with a little bit of discipline and guidance. So go ahead. I'll let you get into what you're gonna get into. I'm excited.
Okay. Well, to be quite honest with you, I think it's just a little shift in mentality, because Uncle Sam takes his taxes out of our paycheck. He knew we didn't have the discipline to pay him, so he just took his off of the top. And so there's something called the automatic millionaire, that if we did the same thing, just allow them to take it right out of our paycheck. Just allow it to come right out of your bank account, the 1st, the 15th, the 30th, or any day of the month. Just automatically, you won't even miss the money, because we have a category called miscellaneous. We touched on that the last time. And we figure out how to live off of the rest. And so, as I mentioned last time, if you have 40 years left in the workforce, you only need $50 a month, averaging 12% to be a millionaire. $50 a month. If you got 30 years left in the workforce, you only need $250. That's $125 a pay. Let that ride out for the 30 years and you'll be a cash millionaire. So it doesn't take a lot of discipline. It just says, okay, I'll sign up for that program. And I promise you, how you shop, how you eat, what you spend your money on will not even be bothered, because it'll just come out of the miscellaneous, mindless money that we utilize every month. And everybody has a miscellaneous every month, so you wouldn't even miss it. And so forth and so on. So yes, discipline, but not really. Put that thing on autopilot and you will figure out how to live off of the rest. So just to recap a little bit, last time that we were here, I really wanted to spend that time just impressing upon you the fact that when you decide not to be your money maker, whenever age and whatever time in that life, what will be your money maker? What will bring in the money? And so I spent almost the whole show talking about how, they talk about the box of cereal, the no-name box of cereal in 2019, December was $2.50. Well, it's $4 today. And the name brand cereal that was $4.50 last in December 3 years ago. Today, that same box of cereal is $7 and $8. And you know the rest about the eggs and the gas. You already know. And so... and it's a struggle to keep up with those things today as we work. What about when you're ready to go sit down, right? What about when you're ready to say, I'm not doing this anymore? What will then be your money maker? That's the reason why we talked about what we talked about. Because when you're not making your money anymore, the pile of money you accumulate will become your money maker. So we spent a lot of time talking about that. We looked at some things, and I guess we can hop right into the slides because those first few slides will recap it. And so this one talks about here, it pays to start investing early. But early is today, if that's what it is. But early is not tomorrow or next month or wait till the summer or after my birthday month or after the holidays. When's the best time to start investing? Well, it was yesterday, but if you missed that one, then the next best time is today. And so you might not be able to see it. It's a little small on your screen, but if you can pinch your own screen, you can see, again, someone who saved $89 a month. $89 a month from age 25 wound up having $500,000 at 67. When I say save, I mean investing. It's in accounts that the dollars are bringing home some friends. If you just save the money, it's very difficult to save $500,000. But when we put it in places where the money brings home some friends, then we can make some. We could do some things. If you save $100, invest $100 a month at age 25, you'll have $566,920. Right? If you start at 35 with $225, then you'll get there as well. But you got to save almost twice as much, more than twice as much. So as time goes on, you got to save more to hit the same goal. Right? And so it just talks about what $100 will do and what it'll get you. But saving today with whatever you have gets the ball rolling. Remember the rule of 72. I think that's probably our next slide.
Changed my life when I saw this.
Oh, so let's go with the slides as they come up. And so when I talk about putting your money in places that's designed to bring home some friends. So when we talked last week, we talked about most people know to put money in the bank, especially if it was 10 beans. If it was $10,000, that's where we want to put it, kind of keeping it safe. And so what banks do is they work on money in the economy. All right. Even though it may feel comfortable with the fact that investments in banks and savings and loans are guaranteed against the loss by the Federal Deposit, the FDIC, what you are purchasing with that kind of guarantee is something you hadn't counted on, a guaranteed loss. And it just shows somebody that gets 1%. And if you Google what is your bank's checking or savings account, it is not even 1. It's 0.04, 0.05, 0.4, 0.5. That's less than one, half. But this is being generous and saying the bank's giving you 1% on your $10,000. Okay, so you put $100 in, but you're going to pay $25 in taxes. That's a 25% tax rate. And so you'll have you make $100 off of your $10,000, but $25 got to go to Uncle Sam right away. We're going to talk about pay less in taxes. Remember that minus 25. Imagine if that was 100,000. Imagine if that was 500,000, and you got to subtract 25%. But if you put it in vehicles that shelter you from Uncle Sam, he don't get his, but you get all of yours, then that negative 25 never happens. But in the bank, it happens. So that leaves you have your net with $75, right? $10,075. But bread is up 3%, gas is up 3%. If the cost of buying things is up 3%. And so if inflation is at 3%, you're actually going to be buying $9,782 worth of goods, which is $10,075. And so you actually lose buying power. And that's why people have to go back to work in retirement. That's why one parent used to go work and handle all the bills. And then that one parent had to get a half a job on top of the one job. And then eventually mom and dad both had to have full-time jobs, and he had to have a job. Now mom, dad, the teenagers, the dog, everybody's got to get a job and contribute around here because inflation's not 3%, it was 9%.
Right.
last year. And so we talk about being in places where your money is at least beating gas, eggs, bread, milk, and apples. Your
Mm.
money's got to at least do better than what they are doing,
Right.
or we lose purchasing power. So I guess we can see the next slide there. They're in the order that they're in, but they are, and this is just another one that speaks to it. You know, if you had $1,000 a month coming in today, and everything that $1,000 buys in 20 years, that same thousand will only buy $553 worth of stuff in 20 years. And so the cost of goods go up as time goes on. Is our income doing that? Is our savings and growing money, investments doing that?
No.
And if the answer is no, we're going to be on the losing side of that. There's ways to shore it up, but I just want to again just keep sharing with you what may not be obvious day to day, but you feel that thing in 3 years of this, 5 years of this, let alone at retirement when you decide I'm not working anymore. And if your money is static, it won't be able to buy like you buy today.
And honestly, where we are right now, the things that you're talking about, when you got people saying, you know, they might have to do something strange for some change to keep up with the price of eggs, you know, where you used to get eggs dirt cheap. You used to get that. Then they raised the price on chicken, and they raised the price on all of these things. And our dollar, even when you go to the grocery store, you know, your $100 doesn't get what $100 used to get, because everything is up, you know. So that last slide really just speaks to how much things have gone up over time.
That's right. The movies in 87, they said, was $2.50. In 1987, $2.50. A stamp back then was a quarter.
I remember.
Hey. So this will just continue to go on. You know what the prices are today. Yes,
Right.
indeed. So we could look at that next slide if you like. Any questions, just stop me. All right. So this speaks a little bit to what the person said about what would I do with $2,000? So we have a philosophy in the investing world that to have a complete savings program, most people need 3 types of basic accounts. One account is the emergency fund. The other account is the long-term savings or investments, the mutual funds, the retirement type plans. The one in the middle is that's an optional one, but that's the one that says, well, we're getting married in 2 years. Or I want to buy my first home in a year and a half. I want to open up my trucking business. I want to open up my nursing staffing company. I want to open up my daycare building. You have this. We're going on a whirlwind African safari vacation for a month.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know, people have big goals, but you have something more big ticket. In my car, my little jalopy is on its last leg. I know I'm gonna need to get another one in about 6 to 8 months. So those are they would be put in different categories. So of course, we always talk about the wealth building account. That's the one you want to get started now because time is your friend there. But if we didn't set up an emergencies, when the carburetor falls out the car, or the tires blow, or the roof start leaking, or the baby get hit in the mouth with the ball, and you got to go to the dentist every other day for a month, and things of this nature, you know what I mean, stuff that comes up, life. If you don't have an emergency fund, most people going to borrow from the 401k. Most people going to dip into the IRA because that's where the only money they really have saved like that. So we do separate them. And by all means, we use all 3 accounts because the least amount, the most conservative one will be the emergency fund. And remember, it still has to beat eggs, gas, milk, bread, and apples. So we don't necessarily bank for that.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying this emergency fund might eliminate people having to go get a payday loan, or, you know, borrowing from their retirement, or, you know, having to go get a personal loan, period, if
Credit cards.
Oh yeah, forgot that part. Credit cards, where you max out your cards and things like that, because there's a unexpected emergency. And statistics show that most people don't even have $1,000 saved when it comes in that situation where they have an emergency.
That's absolutely correct. And the goal there is to have 3 to 6 months worth of bill paying money sitting in that emergency fund. That means money, whatever it takes to pay your bills every 30 days, 3 to 6 months is the goal of that. It could take a year, it could take 10 years, but that is the goal there. The long-term savings accounts we can get, we had to fight for no less than $500,000 in that account. And then, like I said, the short term is if there's something on your agenda and we actually need to put money aside for it. Okay. So when a young lady says, I have 2,000, I'm going to always look through the lens of this.
Sure.
Do you have an emergency fund? I'm not going to put 2,000 in a long-term account if we don't have the emergency fund.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That may be where we started. That's just, and this is if she had 2,000, or if she just retired with 2 million, or just inherited 2 million. We still go through a process, and it's very similar, but the vehicles that we use will differ depending on what the objective is.
Gotcha. Okay. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So the short term, the emergency or short term will then stop you from going into the long term.
Absolutely. And debt. Stop you from going into debt. Yes.
That too.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So we keep this conversation rolling if we have our next slide. So one of the things, this is what I started with the last time, and I'm going to go over it again. Where's your money maker? And this, if you can pinch your screen and make it a little bit bigger, you can see we use mutual funds for this young lady. She had $250,000. That's what she started with. That's as far as she got for retirement. Kudos to her, because Social Security says 90% of people don't make it to their first 100,000 before they retire.
That's a high number.
Right. Jeez. Right. So that's why I say, let's do it now. I don't care if you got $1 a day. Let's do it now. Mm-hmm. Call us so we can set this stuff up and get it going. Once it becomes a habit, we just a sum total of our habits. So we just got to formulate some new habits. That's all. Mm-hmm. But this young lady did amass $250,000, and so we put her money in. Her money was in 3 different funds, and this is what they call a hypothetical, where it looks back in time and it showed her using these 3 funds. This is exactly what happened to $250,000 from 2002 all the way to 2022, just to give her an example of its performance. And so if you look at the third column, so the first column are dates, years. The second column is that she only put $250,000. She didn't add any more money. She's retired. She's ready to start pulling a paycheck every month. Mm-hmm. The third column is what 5% of her pile of money. She had $250,000. That first year, her pile of money produced $12,817. That's about $1,000 a month. Right? And so the second year, it was up to $16,000 because her pile grew a little bit. Let me show you that on the other side. Mm-hmm. Then the next year was $16,907. The next year is $16,809 because her balance came down a little bit. The next year she had $18,000. So you could divide that by 12 and you can see what she got every month. Because $250,000 looks like a lot of money to people. Right. If we don't want it to run out. Remember the last time I said our job is to fill the cup, and we're living off of what spills over the cup. Got that from Mr. Lenny White. So she's living off of the foam of the cup. And then the second circle, the second red circle, she did this for 20 years. And over 20 years, she pulled off $373,000, even though she only started with $250,000. Mm-hmm. But she pulled off $373,000 over 20 years. And if you look at that second red circle, 20 years later, now she's in her 80s strong. She still has $472,000. So if you add those two numbers together, 472 and 373, that's how much her $250,000 grew to over $800,000 in her retirement. Your money maker, her money maker started with $250,000, it produced $373,000, and she still has $472,000. So we could keep playing this game until she reaches age 120. Her money doesn't run out, it continues to grow. And when she drops dead, guess who gets her 472? Her children.
That's generational wealth creation right here, right?
Because then we teach the children, add to the money maker your mama left you, add to it. So when you're ready to stop working, you don't stop with 472, you stop with 1,472,000. You live off of 5%. And then when you lived on it, you wore it out for 20, 25, 30, 40 years. You lived in retirement for 30, 40 years, wore it out. And then your grandchildren inherit. And that is what old money is. And now in your older age, and you're not going back to work because your pile of money is getting bigger. So is your income because of it. And so you don't run out of money here. Now, if she went ahead and spent the $250, which a lot of people do, and in their first 5 or 6 years from retirement, they're broke again because they're not working with someone who would set it up. This also happens, like we said the last time, with a life insurance check. Our average death claim is $279,000 or $97,000 because the person didn't live long enough to build the money. But here's an instant estate for the family.
Right.
And then that income is what they continue to pay the rent or the mortgage with. That income is what they continue to pay the light bill, gas bill, water bill, and electric bill with. There's an income still coming in. It's like taking care of your family from the grave. That's the life insurance. This also could be your slip and fall money. You fell at ShopRite. You know what I mean? Broke a toe, took them to court, and you got a couple dollars. Wherever the money comes from, let's grow it so that at some point you can live off of it while it continues to grow.
Something else I love that in this illustration, because people are always like, I'm gonna lose money. I don't want to put my money in the market because I'm gonna lose money. There are several in red times where the money didn't perform the way that the person would have liked. And a lot of the times when they see stuff like that, they pull their money, right? Instead of letting it grow, because there are several illustrations on here where the money the interest almost doubled on their money. So, a lot of people pull it out. Oh, it went down, however much it went down, and I don't want to lose any more money, so I'm gonna take my money out. And that this slide just shows that that's a really big mistake.
That's a phenomenal observation, Ms. Thornton. Phenomenal. It really is, because I mean, in this market, post-COVID, well, in particular this year, last year, the market did people, and I keep teaching them. My job is really to manage human tendency and human behavior. The money is going to do what it do. But in 20 years, it was red 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times the market did negatively for the year. 7 times out of 20 years, and including a negative 35%. That was 08. Everybody was down in 08. That means a whole third of your money. And you can see the balance was 354, and then the next year was 226, and people will freak. But then it came back to the next year to 284, and then the next year 306, and the next year 301, but the next year 325. See, letting it do what it do that's what the market does. There's always ebb and flow, ups and down in business. And the economy is nothing more but companies that are in business. Money shifts. It doesn't evaporate. And even with all those 6 years, 7 years of downs, including 1 year, a whole third down, she still grew from 250 to over 800,000. I'm talking about the money she took and the money that was still in the account. It still grew to over 800,000. And so with a licensed financial professional, licensed financial coach, advisor, is going to do is what is our objective and when do we need the money? This is built into the returns.
Sure.
Yes. Good observation.
I love that. Yes. Because I just saw all the green versus all the red.
That's right. It's in there. We
Yeah.
don't hide it because you should know that it's a part of how it works.
Sure.
And no one feels good when you're going through it. You don't feel good when you're going through it, but it is a part of how it works. So you still go to work, you still buy groceries, you still getting your car fixed, you're still living even when the economy is a little tight for you.
Right.
Because money doesn't evaporate, it just shifts. Okay, so yes, indeed. So we could go on to the next slide because they may be a little in the order. So this was the rule of 72. Just to remind our audience, you know, the interest dictates how fast your money grows. That's what it does. And so when you get double-digit returns, it's going to, so that green column up at the top at 12%, 10,000 grew to 2.5 million over 48 years. But it did that without adding another dime. But that 10,000 at 3%, and remember the banks give you 0.5%. At 3%, the 10,000 grew to 40,000. Well, ain't nobody retiring with 40. And so we show people that rate of return matters, and that you can get a higher rate. And in the stock market economy has a track record. I know there's a lot of newfangled things, but the economy has 100-plus-year-old track record on how it functions. And at the bottom, you can see the person, we didn't start with a chunk of money. We just put time and consistency on $200. All right. And a 25-year wind up with $940,000 plus at retirement. Little time and consistency. What is it that you could do and your house doesn't collapse? You probably could do 100. You probably can do 300. There's some people can do 500. It's a fortunate few, especially dual household incomes, that could do 1,000, 2 or 3. But something consistently over time, and the something typically grows because you tend to make more money as you get older.
Sure. For the 25-year-old who, you know, puts it off, you know, oh, I'm doing me, I'm not trying to save money, none of that stuff. This just illustrates it. If you're a parent with a 25-year-old, pay attention because they have time on their side. They're 25 years old and they have many doubling periods. How that money's doubling up top, they have a lot of doubling periods. So time is on their side, which is why they don't have to invest as much as a person would that's 40 years, that's starting at 40. So it asks there's a high cost of waiting. Would you rather start at 25, or would you rather, you know, if you're at 40, great, get started. But we want to catch the younger generation too. People will like to act like this is a grown and sexy type of thing, but this is for all ages, no matter what age you are, but particularly if you start young. That's what I'm teaching my children. Start young so that you can stop early.
That's right. That's exactly right. Being able to stop is just a matter of how much money you have. It's really not a matter of age. So if you got it early, you get to stop early.
Sure.
Yes. So, any questions that came up?
So nothing that I see that popped up. I like where you were talking about. There are some people who don't know the difference between a mutual fund and a mutual friend. So can you talk a little bit more about retirement vehicles, mutual funds, 401ks, 403bs? What is it that that people need to know when they're making the decisions on where to park their money?
Okay, so what a mutual fund is, this is in one of the slides. I think our slides are jumbled, but that's okay. What a mutual fund is, so you know how people says, I want to buy some stock in Nike, Tesla.
They doing the individual things. Yeah, I'm watching this Amazon stock.
Right. So that's buying shares of ownership. You're buying slices of ownership. So let's say Amazon, this is a share of Amazon. And Amazon share right now is, say, $30 a share, right? So you say I have $300. So you're going to get 10 shares of Amazon, right? You might want to do that with Nike. You might want to do that with Tesla. You know, you're buying shares. What a mutual fund is, instead of buying shares in Nike, Tesla, and Amazon, it's in our slides. But what a mutual fund is, might have 100 companies in one fund. So now, let's say you have $300. You're putting $300 in this fund every month. And so you're buying partial shares of all the companies in that fund. You're buying partial shares of all the companies in that fund, right? And so you do, and so a share is ownership. So if you bought some Nike shares, or you had a fund that say had Nike in it, you own, Nike is your company. You own it. You buy it. Why not own it? You buy it, why not own it? Then when you buy it, you putting profit in your own company's pocket. Now you might own 1/1,000,000th of the company, but just there you go. There you go. So that's what a mutual fund is. And your 401k can be made up of mutual funds. Your 403b, which is just a 401k, but for a nonprofit organization, is made up of mutual funds. Your Roth IRA, your traditional IRA, some of your variable annuities are made up of mutual funds. And so what a mutual fund is that it allows individual investors. So I might have $100 a month. Lisa might have $300 a month. Somebody else has $200. Her neighbor, her sister has $500 a month. But we're all pulling our money into the fund. The fund manager, he's the guy at the custodian. So Franklin Templeton is a custodian. Lincoln Financial, Fidelity, they're custodians, right? They have their funds. Mm-hmm. So they're managing the funds. They're watching those 100 companies like a hawk. And if those companies are not performing and meeting the objective of the fund, they will pluck that company out and put another one in its place, so that it meets the objective of the fund. That's the professional money manager. And so this is, if you can print your screen a little bit, you can see this is a make-believe fund, but it shows you in this fund, its top holdings. Because when you get information on the fund, they're probably not going to show you all 100 funds, but you could take the New York Stock Exchange and put it in the ticker, and you can get a report to see what companies are in it. But the top 10 holdings. So this fund has Procter & Gamble. That's the company that makes Febreze and Crest and Downy and Gillette. They also have Walt Disney companies in there. They also have pharmaceuticals like Pfizer. They make Advil and Lipitor. They also have Verizon in there, and McDonald's in there, and Microsoft in this one fund. So your money is being spread out every month. You put money in there amongst all of those companies. Really the fund, but the fund invests in those companies, right? And so the difference between buying a share of Nike versus putting money in the fund, it's like getting on an elevator. Would you rather get on an elevator with one cord, or would you rather get on an elevator with 150 cords?
Definitely the 150, because that way, if a cord breaks, I still got a chance of making it to the top.
That's right. That's right. So if Nike went under, it's a strong company. The likelihood is that it would not, but you all your money, all your eggs would be in Nike. And if they went on, that's the Enron story.
Sure.
That, you know what I mean? The cashier in the cafeteria was a millionaire at Enron. Her paycheck came from Enron every 2 weeks. They paid her in Enron stock, which was a Fortune 150 company. Mm-hmm. And so everything was in there. The janitor were millionaires. The lady at the cafeteria was the millionaire too, because she had all this Enron stuff. But when it imploded, now her paycheck went away. All the stock she had now is just worth pennies. And so, because that's all eggs in one basket. What a mutual fund is allows, someone asked about diversification. Right. It allows for diversification. It's naturally diversified because of the spread of the funds in there. And then these are just a couple of principles, and this is going to come up again. So something called dollar cost averaging. So let's say you come up with a number you can do every month by putting money aside away. I could do $50. I could do $200. I could do $300. I could do $500. Whatever your number is. Mm-hmm. Dollar cost average says do it every month, regardless of what the news is telling you that the stock market, what is the news job is to put fear in here. They need ratings. They need ratings. So that
Yes.
everything is sensationalized and often on the negative bend.
Right.
That's the news's job. So how the market works is up and down. And you can see two investors, they saved each one of them put $100 a month in their investments. And investor A, he only put it in, oh, the market look good. Oh, let me get in there. Let me put some money in there. He only put his $100 in when the market was up. Investor B put his money in there every month, no matter. Up, down, don't matter. He was putting it in. So they both put $600 into their investment over a 6-month period.
Right.
Investor A wound up with 42 shares of ownership. Investor B had 126 shares of ownership. They both put the same money in. And the reason being because investor A, it sounds good to say, I'm going to put my money in when the market is up. But when you're putting your money in when the market is up, everything is at a premium. You're paying the top dollar for it when the market's up. When the market is down, everything is on sale. And so investor B, when he's putting his money in when it was down, he was getting them on sale. Investor A, he only paid premium. And so investor B averaged $4.76 a share. Investor B wound up paying $14 on average per share. So that's why and it's the person with the most shares that win. When you sit in that retirement and you got thousands and thousands of dollars of shares, and then you multiply it times the share price, that's what you got. That's the money you have. And then so that's a principle. And I have to share it with people when they get a little frigid around these times. Listen, keep putting your money in. As a matter of fact, if you could find some more money, get some more money. It's what wealthy people are doing. Everything's on sale. Wealthy people are dumping as much money into the market as possible. Warren Buffett says when everybody else do the opposite of the crowd, if the crowd is frigid and they pulling out, you better buy everything you can get your hands on. And when the people in the market they excited and they put a whole bunch of money in, you better be selling your stuff. Right. Because the principle of getting wealthy with using stocks and investments and mutual funds is you buy low and you sell high. That's the principle of any business. You buy your dress low and you sell it high. You buy your house low and you sell it high. That's the principle of making money. But our human nature, we do the opposite when it comes to our investments. Just our human nature, because we don't always understand it and we don't have a coach that's going to guide us through it. And then the last principle is tax deferral. This is another person who saved $10,000, but they saved it in two different accounts. One saved it in an account that's tax deferred. What's tax deferred? Your 401k, your 403b, IRAs, college funds. They're all tax deferred. So as you're making 10 or 15,000 a year, and in the beginning, you're not making 10 or 15,000 a year. You might only be making $150 or $200 if you're starting small. But whatever you make, Uncle Sam doesn't count it as income, so he does not tax it. So if he taxed it, you would have to take a piece out and pay him. But if you don't have to take a piece out and pay him every year for 30 years, for 20 years, for 10 years, for 15 years, it stays in the account to keep doubling. But if you got to pay him every year, at the end of the year, you get a 1099, you got to report that stuff on your taxes. Here's the difference in the outcome. This person saved $10,000, averaged 9% for 30 years in a tax deferred account where he did not have to pay Uncle Sam year to year on this money. He made $1.5 million in 30 years.
Right.
And then the one who had to pay Uncle Sam every year, he got half the money, $739,000. So one of the principles is how using vehicles that keep Uncle Sam out of your pocket.
Right. Something that I find to be really important to mention when you're talking about managing funds, when you were talking about how someone is a fund manager, a lot of the times we go on these apps and we buy stock. I won't name them, but when there's a a flop, when the market goes down, you take your money out. But one key thing you said is when things aren't looking right, the fund manager swaps the company, not takes the money out.
Mm-hmm.
That was huge for me, because that's how you, if you're not aware of how it works or how these things perform and all of that, you'll just take your money out and maybe go put it somewhere else and not understand how things trend or how they're managed. So
Right. Because going back to the share of Nike that I was talking about, and we talked about it being a pin, this pin being a share of Nike. Well, if you bought this pin for $10, why would you then sell it for $8? See, the share, when you're selling for less than what you pay, and what happens is when you want to pull your money out, I want to pull my money out, they have to sell the shares you own to give you your cash. So what happens is you're selling low, you purchased high and you sold low. Everybody knows that's the opposite of making money.
Right.
Whatever you want to sell, you want to sell it higher for what you paid for it. Ain't that how money is made?
Yes, indeed.
Right. So so we do the opposite. I just want to take my money out, but no, the thing you purchased, they have to sell it to give you the money. So you don't want to move when it's down. Let that sucker come back up. And when it's a penny more than you paid for it, if you must, then you take it out. But what most people do, because the market is up, they don't feel like they need to move it, which is a good thing. And so I just help people who are my clients through those times. It doesn't feel good when you're going in it, but it is calculated in the profit you're going to make in long term in particular. Okay. You got another slide, unless you got another question, comment.
No, this is right on time.
Okay, trying to move it through. So here, if you can see it, maybe on this one, pinch it. So this is the IRS code. So people talk about this life insurance, IUL, Universal Life, all of those.
Be your own bank.
All of that. That's just fancy packaging for cash value life insurance, but it is indeed life insurance. So this is the IRS code. It's 2 slides like this. This is the second slide, but I'll explain it anyway. It says when you go to file your taxes, now you all probably have tax professionals, but people who've done their taxes, when you get to the dividend line, they want you to report your dividends. You get these 1099s that say how much you made in your investments. Now, if it's a tax deferred, they're still going to show it to you, but you don't have to report that. Well, you'll report it, but you'll report it on the non-taxable side. So this is out of the booklet. When you do your 1040, it's in the booklet. The IRS code it was line 9 that year, but it says when it was asking you what dividends do you have a 1099 dividends, report the dividends because we taxing you on that. But it says do not report dividends on an insurance policy. These are a partial return of premiums you paid. It's like when you get your tax return, that's not money that Uncle Sam is giving. That's money you gave Uncle Sam that didn't belong to him. When you get taxes back, that's money that you gave Uncle Sam all year that did not belong to him. You didn't make more money. That's the money you made in the first place that he never had rights to it. So
right.
Dividends is a return of premium. They thought out of 1,000 people, 10 people out of 1,000 would die. Well, in that year, only 8 people out of 1,000 died. So they charged you based on expecting 10 to die. 8 died. So they give you back your dividends. They overcharged you. And they're just giving you, but they call it dividends, and it confuses you because you hear dividends in investing, but it is not the same thing. And this is the IRS telling you that. Do not include them in income until they exceed the total of all net premiums you paid for the contract. So here you go, my Universal Life people, my Be Your Own Bank people. If I don't care how much money you ever pull out of the policy, if you pull out more than you paid monthly for years, not a second before, But the moment you get more back than you paid in, that becomes income, and Uncle Sam is going to tax it. He will track that crap. I don't care if it takes him 3 decades. He does. He tracks it. And so, because he tells insurance companies, you can't call this an investment. Life insurance is not an investment. If you look at the whole instructions on your 1040 booklet, it'll tell you as life insurance are not investments. There's an entire tax code specific to life insurance companies that they're not investments. But the life insurance guy will market it to you as such. And so that's the IRS. That's Uncle Sam. He don't have no skin in the game. He just telling you what the law is.
Right.
We got another slide like that, probably. Okay. So there's another one. So the other one says you do report dividends on your investments. That is income. That is part of what the young lady was getting every month. That is how her account grew. So those dividends are income because your money is making you money.
I think it's the other slide.
Yeah.
I think that's the same one, but there's one that talks about dividends as investments.
Mm-hmm. It'll come up. I don't want you to rack your brain over the slides. So we could go through the slides as they come up just to explain principles. So we just went over a few principles. So this is an example of a mutual fund. So the slides are out of order, but we can still hit each. And as questions come up, that's fine. We're still going to hit each one. So this is an example of an actual mutual fund. And this too, like Lisa said, talks about the ups and downs. This is a person who put $10,000 in this mutual fund. And that $10,000 from 2007 to 2018, the $10,000 grew to $30,000. In 11 years, 10,000 grew to 30,000. Even with a big old dip in 2009, even with that big dip where people would freak out, oh my God, I'm losing money. Oh my God, the sky is falling. It's a part of it.
Right.
And so what you can see too is that the top companies in this particular fund, and this, if you had it, you're buying ownership in Microsoft, Apple, JP Morgan Chase, United Health Group, Berkshire Hathaway, the Home Depot, Comcast, Visa, Johnson & Johnson, Honeywell, so ExxonMobil, Merck, and Travelers companies. So you can see here, this is just a typical mutual fund. It will tell you how it has performed. And let me see, but where is that at? So
this is so good because you can see all the companies that you spread your money out over.
That's right. Awesome. All right. And so too, it talks about its returns. 1 year it was 10%, then 11%, and 11%, and 9%, and 10 years. They just gave you a snapshot of it. 10 years. Ever since this fund has been in existence, it has averaged 10.32%. The last 10 years, 9%. The last 5 years, 11%. The last 3 years, 11.8%. In the last 1 year, 10.61%. This is a sample. This is a real fund, but it's not the latest. It's up to 2018. Now, if we were sitting one-on-one and we were actually talking about investing, any prospectus or any fact sheet that we would share is within 18 months of today's date. So this is an old one, but it shows you what you would see on the fact sheet. All right. Mm-hmm. And so that was just an example one. The other one was a sample one, but this is a real one. And when you can get 10% on your money, or you putting away 10% of your paycheck, you will be okay. Over your career, you will be very, 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 very okay.
Love that. Rashida, can you tell us the difference between a traditional Roth, IRA and a Roth IRA?
Okay. So that's not on this slide. We can either go to the next slide. Okay, there we go. Thank you. Okay. Not yet. Okay. All right. So a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA. a traditional IRA, the money that you contribute to your investment was taken out of your paycheck before your paycheck was taxed. So no, let me go back. So let me say it a different way. Your 401k, your 403b, that money is taken out of your paycheck before your paycheck is taxed. So if I made $1,000 and I contribute 10%, so that means $100 a pay. They take that $100 out before my paycheck is taxed, and now Uncle Sam is only going to tax me on $900. So it's pre-tax dollars. So a traditional IRA is not coming out of your paycheck. It's coming out of your bank account. So your bank account is filled with money that's already been taxed. But at the end of the year, if on your tax return you say, well, Uncle Sam, I put $1,200, $100 a month in my traditional IRA, then let's say that's $1,000. It's more, it's $1,200. And I made $52,000 that year. Uncle Sam will only tax me on $40,000. It's pre-tax dollars that contributed, pre-tax. So that means when you grow that money, when you go to retire and you pull a little bit out every month, that money you pull out every month will be taxed like a paycheck. So with 401k, 403b, traditional IRAs, all pre-tax, you get your tax benefit in 2023. Roth IRA, and they have 401ks that are now sliced. You could pick whether you want this Roth money or you want it to be a regular traditional money for pre-tax. Mm-hmm. So Roth money, the contributions that go into your Roth come from your paycheck. Your paycheck has already been taxed. So the money going into the Roth has already been taxed. You don't get a tax break in 2023. If you make $52,000 and you put $12,000 in there, Uncle Sam's still taxing you on $52,000. However, that $12,000, you do that every year. Let's say you do that for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. Let's say you've contributed all that time. What is it? 12,000, 24,000, 36, maybe $48,000, right? But that account grew to 690. Everything above and beyond what you contributed is growth. And Uncle Sam will never tax you on it. It's all tax-free.
Major key.
So that's why people elect Roths all the time. Because once you're in retirement, that money, you spend it however way you want, and you never pay taxes on it.
There it is. That's huge.
And a little maybe known fact is that if you needed the Roth money, so you've been doing this and now your Roth, you got 60,000, 50,000, 10,000, 5,000, but you've been putting money in, and let's say you didn't fully fund your emergency fund, but you need money right now. Them tires went flat, busted. I need get some tires. So you take some money out, first in, first out. So what you're pulling out is money that's already been taxed. So you can do that, even though you're not 59 and a half, even though with no taxes, no penalty, because that money's already been taxed. You're still not touching the growth. Now, if you take the growth out, well, Uncle Sam gonna want his plus a 10% penalty.
That is phenomenal information. Right. If anything, can you folks see why you should work with a licensed financial professional to map these things out and explain it? You could replay this 100 times and still not get what you need to get to be tailored and customized to what your current situation is. And that's really what separates the wealthy from the non-wealthy, is the coaching. So you're cooking with gas. I know you probably have another slide, so let her rip.
Well, I want to be respectful of time. Just let me know when we have to have a hard stop. This one just talked a little bit about, people are very squeamish because the market goes down. That's what the news is on. The market goes down. So this gets a little technical, but I'm going to try to keep it really, what it says is, so a bear market is when the market's down. That's what they call a bear market. A bull market is when the market is up. So it just shows you, we talked about it's built into how the thing works, how the market works, how you still going to, with time and consistency, you're still going to grow yourself 100, 200, 300, 400, 500,000 plus.
Mm-hmm.
And so it talks about a small, look at the small little teddy bear market. That means it was a decline of 5 to 10%.
Mm-hmm.
5 to 10%. Well, over a third, I think, let me see, since 1945, I don't know, that's pushing up on 80 years, something like that.
Right.
The market has been down, but somewhere between 5 and 10%, 40 times out of 80 years, 40 times, right? And the average time to recover was about 3 months. Now, when a little bit bigger bear, right? -20, -10 to -20%. That's happened 14 times in 80 years. 14 times. It takes about 7 months to recover from that. You see why we don't want people shifting the money? I want to bring it out. I want to put it in. I want to take it out. I want to put it in, because you messing with your returns.
Mm-hmm.
A bigger bear down -20 to 30% in 80 years. That happened 5 times. 80 years, that happened 5 times, and you was back to business at 25 months. You have recovered like it didn't happen. 25 months, and that's 2 years of people squeamish. But if you're not retiring for another 10, 15 years, you good, you'll be all right.
Right.
And then between 30 and 60 times, that also happened 5 times. So it says in 87 years, you got 70% positive times, 26% negative times, and you averaged 11%, because people want to go to cash accounts. People like the bank, like CDs, like money markets. Those are cash accounts with no return, very little to no return.
Right.
And by the time they get excited to get back in the market, they miss the best days of the return. By the time you find out the market is doing good, its best days have already happened. And so they just say, stay put, in particular, if that's what your time horizon tells you. But, if you squeamish, maybe your profile, your investment profile, we may need to get a little bit more conservative for you. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of times when people understand, and if I'm not freaking out, they not freaking out. I still have them by the hand in turbulent times, but I know what their objective is, and I know when it is, and so do most licensed professionals. And so you set up your portfolio with that in mind, to include how you feel, how your belly feel about the ups and downs. Because if you're nauseated and you want to call Rashid at 3 a.m., we probably have you too aggressive. You know what I mean? We just have you too aggressive, so we can bring it in a little bit. I get those calls every so often. I think I have the best group of clients, because I don't get a lot of calls. They just say, well, let's just talk, see where we at. But every now and again, I have the most conservative natured person, period. Their entire personality is conservative. And so every sentence so often, they just need to be reassured. And that's what we talk about. Okay, good deal.
I think this is you definitely can do this one, and then we are going to wrap up.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely this is a good analogy as well.
Yeah, this is just that people say, I don't want to gamble with my money. Mm-hmm. And I said, these are calculated risks, and they're calculated mostly by the fund manager. And then we put together a diversified strategy and portfolio to accomplish what it is you say you want, when at the time frame you say you want it. Mm-hmm. And so when we talk about gambling, well, you got a 44% chance of winning at the roulette table, 48% at blackjack, 40% at the slots. Baccarat is 48%, craps is 48%, poker is 46%, Keno 23%. And we go to the casinos with these odds.
How about that?
However, if you took a rolling monthly return, in other words, from January to February, and February to March, and March to April, that's a rolling 1 month return. Then you can see in a year's time, it was 74% of the time up, 74% month to month to month in a year's time. If you looked at month to month over 3 years, it was up 85%.
Mm.
If you looked at month to month over a 5-year period, you up 92%. Month to month over a 10-year period. I mean, month to month, like January to February, February to March, every month to month for 10 years, it was up 96%. And over a 15-year period, it was up over 99% if you're comparing month to month returns. And so what it says, and they actually looked at this rolling period from 1901 to 2018. And so you have a hard chance of making your money grow in the economy filled with companies you utilize every day and in every way. And you don't even recognize probably 1,000 of the companies you use. You don't know who made the screws that are in the door that's holding your door connected to the door to the frame.
Right.
You know what I mean? You don't know the companies that manufacture the lumber that make up your windows. They're all of these companies are in the economy. You don't know who manufactured, who grew those grapefruits that's in your refrigerator. But since you consume them, they're just saying bet on them. And so that is the end of that slide. But so today was really, I wanted to really drive home last time that we need to build our money maker. I really wanted to build, there was a slide in there, but we don't have to find that. But that slide talked about, well, yeah, Rashida, you see what these prices are. I don't have no money. And so then it says you do, but consider a part-time income. Consider that. Our office is extremely aggressively looking for people that we can get licensed. 856-389-5067. Those are part-timers who we can get licensed because everybody in their family has a hairdresser, somebody do the taxes, somebody work on the car, somebody cook food. But do we have any licensed professionals that we can say, this came from human resource, please explain that to me. You know, do we have anybody that's licensed, not someone who just has knowledge, but they're licensed and that can explain that to and guide us? That's all our community. This is not rocket science. It's not rocket science. It's just that we don't have people in our community we don't have enough people in our community that work with families in our communities. Wall Street doesn't come bouncing down our streets. You know, you go to human resource, they may sign you up for a program, and he's not sitting there explaining all that to you. That ain't really his job. His job is to sign you up.
That's what happened to me.
Right. And then when you have questions, you got 800 numbers and you never get anybody live, and it's your money and you getting squeamish because you're watching the news, you want to pull out. And if we do that back and forth dance over 30 years, we'll wind up with Social Security saying 95% of the people over the age of 65 are the aged poor. And that's so preventable. But you just need to work with somebody that explains it, takes their time with you, walks you through by the hand. And that's what we do. That's what we do. It talked about other things. It said sell stuff. I mean, it had like 5 or 6 different things. Get a part-time job, sell some stuff, do it anyway. It just talked about bringing more money if you're convinced you need to do that. But definitely get started. Back to you.
Absolutely. Well, I was going to say, like, give us a charge, but I think you just did. You know, where it's just time to do something different. You know, it's time to seek coaching. It's time to stop acting as if we know and be sure that we know, so that we can take a step in the direction of not working till we die, having things plugged in case of an emergency. You still can do your, you know, your short-term savings and things like that, but the information is being presented to you for you. Rashida, one more time, how can they reach you if they have questions or are they ready to sit down with you? I know you do Zoom consultations, so they don't even have to leave their home. How can they reach you?
So our office, you can contact our office at 856-389-5067. 856-389-5067. It's not as deep as you may think. and is 100% doable if you have an income.
That's it. Well, that wraps up Your Money Matters, a financial empowerment show. Rashida, I thank you for everything. If those who are ready to be taught are ready to learn, though tonight was just a crash course and explained in terms that we can understand. I think that's what we're afraid of the most, is that we don't know how things work, and there's so many people who won't break it down to us in terms that we can understand, so we just throw our hands up and we don't do any of it. And then if we try to do our own research, again, it's in terms that we don't understand, and we, consequently, we put it off and we put it off and we put it off and we put it off, and then we wake up and we got 10 years left till it's time to retire, and there's no money saved. So I say all the time, if you save money, one day money will save you. And we certainly don't plan to fail. We just fail to plan. So we're going to wrap up. And I thank you all for listening. And I look forward to talking with you next week, when we will be diving into getting your credit and your debt under control. So have a good rest of your evening, and thank you again.
You too.
CMPRadio.net. It's the station. Listen, man, let's cultivate together. Bring us all your show ideas. Content creators, we're looking for that. Videographers, we're looking for that. You can be a part of the next great big